Does it have $1 million vibe? Or?
With enough thrust, you can fly a brick.
Location 1980 Gallery.
In studio podcast.
Yeah.
Are we starting?
Yeah. This is it.
I'd like to start with one of these real quick.
Yeah, it's a deal.
Glad to be here at the firm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always want to do one of those.
Oh, okay.
It's like a weird graduation. Like, where do I go?
Fortunate Ringman and Lindley.
Yeah, you got the diploma.
Is that the correct pronunciation of your last name? Lindley?
Yeah, Lindley.
Okay.
Lindley, yeah.
Lindley.
Lindley. There's no D. Just
Lindley.
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 Well, that's not how you pronounce
Oh, okay.
it. But
if
I were to
I'm asking
enunciate, yeah, Lindley. It's like super English.
Lindley.
Super English last name, very Indian first name.
Right. Shall we?
You guys ready?
Yeah.
3, 2.
Hey guys, welcome back to Location 1980's Art Podcast. I'm here with my co-host Eric Ringman. I'm your host Jesse Fortune, and today's special guest Rishi Lindley. Rishi is a good friend. He's a loving husband, son, burner, DJ, fan of music, musician, artist, very, very wide breadth of creativity, and another friend of the gallery. So we've talked to a lot of artists so far. We've expanded we started almost with artists that were here. I think Lauren was our first episode because she was about to leave. And then we try to get, all right, well, who's been here in the past? Like a Nancy Anderson and Ruth, they've been coming for a long time. Jim.
And friends and family of the gallery.
Yeah, and then now we're still in that layer. But in this case, it's for a very good reason because we're sitting in the middle of the show. It was basically your idea, the art of wax. And we also did an episode with Rainmaker, who played immediately after that. Anyway, the art of wax is a great show. It's your idea. You helped curate it. You, Jill, and myself. So we picked like 40 pieces out of 100 maybe. And everybody is very well attended. We sold some art. You guys are seeing, if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're not, I'll describe the glowing avocado that's behind me. You don't see the full shape of the avocado, but you do see the disco ball part of the avocado. And I did say that clearly and correct. Neon disco avocado ball. That's great.
So if you're on the audio-only version, please tune in to YouTube now.
Check it out.
Even if you are driving, we're not going to be like those other podcasts.
Just wait till you get home.
They wuss out and they're like, hey, don't see this. No.
Oh, you mean like while you're driving?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so many podcasts
you know, pull over. Just pull over.
Like,
even if you're on the highway, pull over. Pull up YouTube.
Flashers. Yeah.
Exactly.
No emergencies here.
You're already probably watching Zootopia 3 or something on the in-screen car TV, so just turn that shit off and put the podcast on.
Amen. Well, Rishi, with that, welcome. And because you are one of the friends, so you've had history here. You had a studio here for more than a year, probably. You know most of the guests that we've had on so far. And you just did that show here. So let's start with the show, the most recent. Art of Wax. It was only maybe 2 weeks ago, I think, the opening reception.
Yeah. September 21st is the last day of summer, right?
Okay, so we're sitting in the gallery with the artwork that you helped put up. The stage is right over there where you guys performed. I don't know if you didn't open, but you played a set there. So describe to our audience the process of which this was an idea that you told me that you had always had. Yeah. And then we pulled it off. So just take us through the A, B, and C. Started like this. We set it up like that. How you feel about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, like being involved and kind of in the realm of this gallery, I always wanted to do a show, but I'm like not the most visual artist. I mean, I make art, but I don't really have like a vision large scale enough to just make art stuff, you know, an art thing. And in the past few years, like after leaving 1980, moving to Portland, getting involved with radio, doing vinyl DJing, I just like had this kind of idea of like, this would be really cool to take the two things that I like, combine them and make something out of it that kind of go hand in hand. I mean, I always find like, you know, for me, music inspires my art and art inspires the the music, and like it's a perfect mix. You know what I mean?
So what are the nuts and bolts of the concept?
You know,
because our artists definitely took it in different directions.
Yeah.
The ones we picked, but
for me, like the nuts and bolts was like, I don't think records is a dying art, and I wanted to really celebrate it. The fact that people are still playing records and making a thing out of this. Like, you got big musicians like Taylor Swift selling records, selling out records. They're literally like record pressing factories that are like, we can't print anything else because we have like millions of Taylor Swift records that we got to put out there. Not that I play any of those, but like, you know, instead of like kind of
shout out to Tay Tay.
instead of like trying to revive something, make it feel like we're want to hold on to the roots. I was like, let's fucking celebrate. Let's celebrate the beauty of like this thing that people, even Gen Z, they're all buying records. And I just thought, you know, you go to Target and you find records. It's so weird.
Yeah, and so what I meant by that too, that's a great explanation. And so some of the work that we're seeing here. Even the disco, Eric, you made the avocado disco ball.
Yeah. Which is an old idea, but it's of course inherently musically themed. And I had just kind of gotten a hair up my ass recently to finally finish this piece of work that had been like half made. And then we had this show come and I said, I got to finish it for that. So it's a little bit off of the format of the rest of the stuff here.
That's perfect, though. So perfect. Well, we kind of loosely made it. Jill did the actual call for entry, and was along the lines of if you were going to imagine making the cover album cover for your favorite artist.
Touch base on that too. Like
like either in the past, like something that's already been made from the 70s or 60s, or something that's out right now, or something that'll never come out. Yeah, it's just random as hell, but. Artists really kind of, like, maybe it just would look cool on an album cover.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised, like...
And it went far.
Yeah. Musical and square.
Yeah, we did one squares. We did one 3x3.
Yeah, like, originally, I had this idea of, like, let's make this 12 by 12, like, square format. Everything's going to be the same. Make it look like an actual record sleeve on the wall. And I'm thinking, like, this is very limiting. You know, sometimes, like, artists they'll already have something, you know what I mean? And the fact that, like, once we looked at the submissions and saw, like, there's so much art here that doesn't fit that format that works so well. So, you know, once we kind of opened that up, it's like, wow, this is really cool to see what kind of stuff we're working with. And
it was neat how the entries made us be more nimble with our idea. We pivoted pretty quick. We're like, you know... But that's still cool, so we're taking it.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a learning curve. Like, I feel like it's kind of hard to limit yourself, especially with artists. Like, you know, you put a limitation on an artist, and that's not always the best thing to do.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you want to do like maybe like guardrails. They might not even see them.
Music inspired.
You know, herding cat-ish.
Yeah. It's kind of like a spectrum.
It's a big wide corral. It's like a 3-mile corral that they just didn't know they were walking through the pasture, but they're roped in the whole time.
I'm stoked. I mean, I'm absolutely stoked with the amount of art, and I mean, it's very colorful, very eclectic.
Did you have a favorite piece when you were here at the show?
Oh man, that's really hard. I do really love. I mean, because of my like.
Because it's your piece.
No. My bias, like, I love Velvet Underground and I love Lou Reed, and Camille's like piece just like, I remember she sent me a picture. She's like, check this out. I'm like, oh, that is just on the nose. Like,
for those of you listening, Cammie, shout out to Mercat. It's really great, illustrative and artist, and she depicted Lou Reed and crossed it over with the duct tape banana that sold for $1 million. In Miami, and she did it splendidly. Yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
I mean, I was just like blown away.
The expression and the energy on that.
It's not the first. It's not the first time too. I've asked everybody. Usually, when people come to the show, how'd you hear about the art show? And then another one would be, do you have a favorite piece hanging tonight? And that got probably the most votes. Yeah. We can do a poll. We should do a poll.
Definitely second best. My piece.
Yeah. Second and third, no problem.
Second and third, fourth.
And also, I'm rocking. For those of you watching, I'm rocking a Rishi T-shirt right here. That's an OG. It's the first edition. So that was the format for how we got the art, and then and then I found out which I should have known, but in this case, we were working pretty much shoulder to shoulder, hanging the work. So you've worked in the past, and we'll go through more of your upcoming when you did that originally, as far as working hanging art. But we kind of knocked it out. We got on the walls, everything looked good. Jill was helping us out. And then now fast forward to like, it's really nice to know like everything looks great. Jill crushed the labels. We got them up, and then now it's the day of the show. Tell our audience like how our format was, because it was a lot different than a normal art show.
Yeah, and I'm also really stoked that we're talking about this after the show and not before the show, because I was like, if I were to talk about this like prior, like what's the show going to be like? I'm like, I really hope it's going to be good. Like there's kind of this nerve factor, but
so
I would say that I would say that it like, oh my gosh, like it went so to use this word perfectly, like swimmingly.
Fair.
Just setting up. I think it's the first time we did a show where like the centerpiece is the stage in the middle with the vinyl decks laid out.
So our gallery is 75 feet by 25 feet. We got the trusses at 12 feet vertical, or the 12 feet mark, and then the ceiling goes up to 16 feet. And usually the DJ, we've done more than 100 art shows here, usually stuck in one of the back left corners. This time we kind of put our heads together and we're like, you know what? We have stages, multiple stages for models. We put them together. I kind of shimmed it out to where everything was the same height, and it's going to be really sturdy. In fact, the day of the show, we had to reinforce it. Throw in a couple extra 2x4s and make it past.
Shout out to you, man.
No worries.
In there knocking 2x4s, like, damn, there's a baby in the corner.
Oh
like,
yeah!
Sleeping. Remember that?
Shout out to the baby. and the baby didn't even scream,
make
cry.
a sound.
It was great. That baby's cute too.
Calder.
Yeah, Calder. What's his name?
Calder. Like the sculptor.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, we went the extra mile to put the stage in the middle to where people could walk around the DJs, and also the DJs were elevated, but not too high. I think it's like less than 2 feet off the ground. But as you walk around them, then you're now behind the DJs, and then we had one more little twist on that.
Yeah, so I had this idea of two ideas. I mean, I reached out to kind of someone I met through the network of 1980, Lucas, and he, it's really funny. I met him at a show here once, and he was like, "You're Lauren's friend." I'm like, yeah. And he's like, "Oh, I know Lauren through the whole Burn crew and everything." But then Amy was like introducing us. And then once I started talking to him, he was like, "Oh yeah, you know Jenny and all these other friends that I'm like from my old job."
The melting pot strikes again.
Yeah, there's so many connections there, and I'd seen some of his work, and he does like really cool like visuals. Like I don't even know how to describe it. It's really beyond me. Like I work in video and all that stuff, and like what he does is just like so beyond what I do.
It was vibing with the music, so it was a little.
Yeah, so
it was
he had
a little
like
TV.
synced up, so the music actually like influenced the video, so it was reactive, I guess. And he had, I think he like specifically put together video for the show. Like I didn't know this, but Jen had talked to him, and he had said like, "Yeah, I know Rishi likes surfing. I put some surf videos in there," and I was like, "That's really cool." Like, and so we had that going, and
that was on a little I think like a 9-inch
like a CTV, like a little small thing going on,
like full Matrix style, like
yeah. And we had,
and then I think right above it was a 55-inch like monitor, and we had your camera. I'm not sure what that was, but
it was a Hi8 camera,
and it was trained on the DJ's hands.
Yeah, it was a close up of the hands, and I was like, it would be really cool to get like more of an in depth. Some people, they see people spinning records, but I love the idea of showing like the details of what's going on. Some people really tune in, and it's really amazing to see the way they kind of like, they'll have one record going, and they kind of like jog this record to sync it up and get the next track going. So I wanted to kind of like showcase that.
I think that worked out really well. We had a pair of couches there in the gallery where that's the first time I had seen. Well, I've had the pleasure of actually making live paintings while you DJ, and during that process, I was staring intently at your hands because I'm making a painting of you. But it was the first time I like just only paid attention to that. Yeah. Like in the one painting, I was painting your fingers, doing something very specific. And I really liked that idea. When we pulled it off, I found that the couch was pretty full almost all night because as many shows as I've been to from whatever range of music that have electronic music, you usually get that one perspective where you're looking at the DJ, and even if you're his friend or like you get to go up by the stage or backstage or whatever, you're not really tuned into that perspective because this was almost like a bird's eye 45-degree angle, and it was so enlarged that it was really like, and you didn't see nothing else, just the DJ's hand. So it was really cool, and people, I think we pulled it off. People really liked
especially that it was like an elevated stage, so you couldn't really see, unless you're like right there, you couldn't really tell what was going on, but. I think there's definitely an artistry to it. That's what I was so drawn to. Like it's physical. You're working with like objects.
I think there's a lot of there's never really too many calm moments. And like I see you guys like do like the half year thing, and then like take a drink and chat to somebody over your shoulder, and then you're back to.
And then you're like,
octopus.
Hold on 1 second.
Or would you do that one time? You I don't know what you did. The fizzy water, and it just exploded all over the DJ booth.
Oh, you mean? I was taking a set, and I took a sip of it was like some kind of like seltzer or something, and
fizzy.
It just went down the wrong hole, and I sprayed it everywhere. And I was so embarrassed because it's at this like really nice high end kind of like mid-century style like.
Can we give them a shout out?
Yeah, Sound by the Sea.
The place is awesome.
Yeah, one of my favorite places. Actually, speaking of shout outs, I'm doing another set there on November 10th.
All right.
7 to 10 p.m. And it's my birthday. So
come check it out.
I'm planning on having people over. We'll maybe doing before or after party or something. So.
Happy pre-birthday. And thanks for the invite. Sound by the Sea, I painted you there. I made a painting of you there, and that's why I was basically watching this whole.
I think it was the first one you came down to.
It was pretty fun, man. But so we did the back to the Art of Wax show. We did it. We sold some pieces. It was very well attended. So throughout the night, basically, I think you had a set list where every hour, every half hour, the DJs would change.
Like 45 to hour sets. They're kind of like. We're working with a time limit, so obviously things change, and it was pretty wild for me. Like I had like a timer going every time someone started. I'd set a timer, and then when it came to like 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, we've got one more song, and then
because while Jillian and I were the curators and gallerists for the 2D work, you were the gallerist for the DJ sets.
Yeah.
So that was cool. So you stayed on top of them too.
Yeah.
Because there's always one more song, one more track or whatever.
I know, right? Like you just want to milk it and put like, oh, I didn't play like the track I really wanted to play. But every time that would happen, I'm like, okay, just one more and we can make it happen. And I do want to give a shout out though to Achilles first of all because we're talking about the setup.
Let's go Achilles.
Achilles is a homie of mine. I've known him for ages. He's like been professionally DJing for like 15 years, and we had this whole idea going, and like kind of near the later end, I asked him if he wanted to do a set, but then I was like, hey, like I could use your help for this, and he just like crushed it. Like
he came through.
Yeah,
he had the goods.
Yeah, so shout out to him. He really like made this like elevated, So
that was the Art of Wax. You did your set. It was very well attended too. People were here at 5:00 sharp, and I think we went over by an hour, maybe 11 or something. And then there was another electronic set in a different area on the property immediately afterwards. So that was a long night. It was like a 12-hour day.
Yeah,
solid 12 hours. But it's super fun. Everybody was stoked. The online reaction is pretty fierce right now. And we'll be able to drop this in order to kind of push towards a closing reception and the rumored, I guess what you're going to call the
Neon Sessions
Neon Sessions debut /
Neon Desk
/
Tiny Neon Desk
/ Common Threads, which we're going to jump back to like when you grew up in New York and Queens, but first. While we're staying kind of modern, for the last year at least, you've been hosting a radio show based out of Portland.
Yeah.
And then we've listened to it. It's also on Wednesday night when we do our figure drawing. So we've tried to tune in sometimes. And it's so trippy to hear your buddy like, hey, this is Rishi. Like, oh, and then Rishi's like, you can be a really solid goof and comic, and like you just like to have fun, and like you have a carefree attitude. It's like infectious. And hearing that on the radio where like so many other people are getting to enjoy like, what I think the way you present things is going to allow them more to like, I'm not sure what he's going to play next, but the way you're like into it, that they're going to be into it. So
Yeah.
tell everyone like about your show, what it is, who airs it, and what you try to play and what you're trying to bring to the people.
Yeah. So I briefly, about 2 years, I lived in Portland, Oregon. Like Jen and I, just like my wife, we
Shout
were
out
like,
to Jen.
Let's try something different and new, and move somewhere we've never lived, and somewhere that we've always like admired. We visited and all that, and always loved it.
So when you went to Portland, real quick, was there any other options? Like were you going to go to Seattle or Portland or?
No, like
or
Portland
like
kind of just
Portland?
always, we had visited like individually like prior years
Okay.
before, and every time, you know, I had gone, I'd been like, I could see myself here, you know, and you know, just it's a very creative city. So when we moved there though, like it was right around like, I would say October, and obviously the weather there hits a little different, and so just the socializing, getting out and all that stuff, I was like, this is nuts. Like it's such a weird city, and I loved it though, but it was just a new place, you know, like making new friends, and I really craved community, and that's something that I missed about being back here. And so a few months, I think leading into early spring, I was just like researching and looking around, and I saw a post looking for radio DJs. So I was like, that sounds cool. Like I love sharing music. I make playlists and share them with people all the time. I don't know if they actually listen to it or not, but like it's definitely something I love doing. So I was like,
had you radio DJ'd before?
no, not at all. And so
Any kind of like live
nothing,
thing like
nothing
that?
at all.
MC?
Nothing at all. And in
Love it.
fact, like I like hated public speaking. I don't like being the center of attention or all that stuff. I don't mind it now. I've conditioned to like be okay with it, but it's still weird. Like being on camera is weird for me, but you know, I just,
Says a man who's got a lot of experience behind the camera.
that's why I stay behind the camera.
Yeah.
Which we will get into.
But
Don't
anyway,
worry, not too many
so
people are watching this yet.
I,
but we'll get to, we'll get there.
I reached out to someone named Brian. So Brian and his wife Callie started Shady Pines Radio, and it started as a media company. They used to film live events. They used to throw live events, and COVID happened. So they were like, "What can we do now? You know, like what can we do next?" So they started this online radio show, and it took off. Like it took off. It brought a lot of community people together, musicians, DJs, artists, all kinds of people kind of joined forces and made this thing happen. And they were just open arms. He was like, you don't have to have an experience. I just want to know that you like have good taste. You know, like
Yes.
send me a playlist. So I sent him a playlist. He's like, let's do it. And
I'm dying to know about that. You proved to him that you had good taste.
I mean,
That's
if I
a
could
trial
find
by
that
fire,
original
dude.
playlist, that'd be so much fun. But like, it was great. Like he got on the phone with me and helped me like, you know, troubleshoot and how to figure out how to stream and everything. And we got it working. And he was like, all right, like Wednesday, 7 p.m. So I went down and sat down and I logged in. I hit live and I'm like, hello? You know, like it was just really awkward. I just recently, after 2 years, like my 2-year anniversary of my first episode, I listened to it. I was like, wow, like that is the most awkward thing I've ever heard in my life, you know? But I loved it. And like the reason why I was compelled to do it is because like, and I know we'll probably cover some more of this later, but like I grew up, I'm half English, half Indian. And so for me, like growing up, I always find it hard to like identify with my Indian culture. It's very easy with the English culture in America. But with the Indian culture is something that I never felt like a community or a sense of like belonging to. And what worked for me was like discovering the music aspect. To start was like Ravi Shankar, Zakir Hussain, like Carnatic classical sitar, tablas, and I thought it was the most beautiful thing. And when I was 18, I was in college, and my buddy played me Fela Kuti, and we all danced, and I was like, what was that? And I fell in love with African music. And so for me, like music was always international music was my way of like kind of communicating something that's like beyond, like kind of tying in together a lot more of what like we all are a part of, rather than just like our experience. I don't even know if this makes sense, but like
Our individual experience.
I don't know how else to put it. Like I it sounds so cliche, but I really do think like music is universal language. You know, we're all divided by our language. You know, that's why we can't really communicate with each other in different areas of the world. But music,
even to people who speak English sometimes.
Yeah. But like, you can listen to a song out of anywhere in the world and be like, this slaps. I love this. You don't even know what they're saying, but it works. And that's my goal, is like, I wanted to really introduce, especially in America, where...
And that's a common thread.
Yeah. Like, especially in America, like, I felt like there's a lot of like misunderstanding or just like this... People aren't really aware of some cultures in a way that they feel like they want to immerse themselves in, you know? And for me, like, sharing the music, it's like, yeah, Mongolian music is cool. Like, you want to listen to like Ethiopian music? Like, this is a vibe, you know? And really like diving into that. Like, I fell in love with Arabic music and Turkish and Persian music, and it's like really cool to share that in America.
Did you, so you went into your show Common Threads with that notion, and obviously since you said you started doing that when you're like 18 and stuff, so you had a kind of a cavalcade of things you needed to hit people to.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to make it an educational experience. Like, that was my goal.
And it's worked. It's worked for you so far as like audience participation and listening. I'm sure you've had comments. Also during that, I'm sure now you've discovered even more things.
Yeah.
While you're, because 2 years is a good run.
I mean, that was kind of a part of the intention. I'm like, I'm going to get into this knowing that I'm going to learn a lot of new music, and it's been so cool.
Yeah, you like made to be the master of this thing, and now you're forcing yourself to truly.
Yeah, and there's so much. I was like, wow,
you made
like,
your
just,
job,
just even like within one country, the regions and like the music differences, and it's super cool. And
so you got like a specialty in global ear.
Well, now did that title Common Threads, which is funny how many times it took me of listening to it to pick up on like, oh yeah, there's a significance to the title, instead of just being like, oh, this is the show that my dear friend hosts. But that title, that theme, is that something you already had, or when you saw this post, like, we're looking for a radio DJ, did that idea come to you pretty quick? Like, what was the development of that like? Because I think it does suit you and your interests so well, and you fit the shoes of Common Threads, beautifully. Like, more so than a lot of people, I think, do when they have to come up with something that high concept. Like, you really nailed that.
Thanks.
Well, I know about that development.
I mean, it was really funny, though, because I didn't have the name in mind, and I was like, I had all these back and forths of people. I was writing, like, I had like a whole page in my notebook of ideas, and funny enough, like, I picked like the most generic, like, basic thing. Like, Common Thread sounds like a clothing company, but for me, it really like tied in, like, this is really what I'm trying to tell. I'm trying to show this like big picture, like, we're very similar to all these other people that we sometimes scrutinize, and like our music is what is like this common thread. Yeah,
it could be one of the first things to open the doors to new culture.
Yeah.
Like if you're walking in if you're like I've been to Europe a few times. When you're walking, it's just in a plaza or something like this, and all of a sudden you hear music, you're going to walk towards it. I usually am. I'm going to walk towards it. I don't know what's happening. Or
most people would.
Some festival that you had no idea what's happening, where you just beeline it, like going towards the music.
Yeah.
And, as soon as you get there, it might not be what you thought, and you're going the opposite way, but it still is going to get you.
But sometimes it's like...
That's why buskers like usually draw a crowd if they're decent, because people are going to roll up. Like, why not?
Yeah.
I saw a dude playing a saxophone in front of Trader Joe's. He was killing it. Shout out to that guy. He was cool. Yeah, cool. Brother Man just blowing the horn, and he had like a little backup.
Is his name actually Brother Man?
No.
There is a guy here in Costa Mesa that goes by Brother Man, so I was like, I had to ask.
Oh, yeah. No, my cadence was off. He was just a cool brother. And then, man, I was going on. Yeah. This was addiction or accident. He was a black guy. He's a brother. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's an older black dude. And anyway, he's blowing the horn, and then he had an accompaniment with some background music. But it was so peaceful, because it was just like, it's like, people are coming in and out of there. They got to get home for the kids, blah, 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 and get dinner, and they're late to some party, and they got to get these flowers. Whatever it is, that Trader Joe's is popping. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be one of the busiest in the whole world.
It's nuts. It's nuts.
It goes off. And I with the artist timeline or schedule or whatever, I get the pleasure of going at all times of day, every day. And I've been there at all times. Most people are restricted by some kind of 9 to 5. There's never a time where it's not completely slammed. So that hustle and bustle is just like completely diffused by his just smooth sounds of the sax out in the parking lot.
Love it.
So yeah, Rishi, thanks for that. Pretty much sums up like the art of wax, and then now common threads, which we're gonna listen to on Wednesday nights at 7:30,
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Pacific.
And you can subscribe. You can there's an app you can download, Shady Pines Radio. And
Let's go, Shady Pines. So we went through that. So now we'll go maybe a little more traditional. You mentioned that you're you're mixed race like me, kind of mixed cultured, I could say, English and Indian, but you grew up in Queens, which that's like a third race, just by being there. And you get the Mets hat. So like I've always been fascinated with New York. I talked to Ruth about this a bit when Ruth Geller was on here. She was more Long Island, but how is it just as far as musical experience? And I believe you're an only child as well. So you've grown up in Queens, and were you born there? Did you grow up there from a little kid?
Yeah.
So how is that just coming up in Queens, like on a day to day, and like the different music, and like I don't know, like you must have been there when like breakdancing and graffiti and stuff like that was blowing up, and hip hop.
I think all of that was. I mean, hip hop was a big one.
I mean, because you were like in a prime time, like Nas and
90s,
like
mid 90s. Like I was just a kid, but like I remember, kids tuning into Hot 97 and hearing Biggie Smalls. I'm like, this is crazy.
So did you guys did you grow up in like a walk up, or was it like what kind of building? Like,
no, I mean, I grew up in a house, like, so where I grew up was like a little bit further outside of Queens. Like, it was a really interesting neighborhood because it was very eclectic. Growing up, like I had Greek friends, Japanese friends, Filipino friends, like Arabic friends, like just everyone, friends from Jamaica and
when you're a kid, you think it's just like doesn't everybody?
Yeah, like this is normal, and like that is so weird realizing that that's not like everywhere,
That's cool. That's a good way to start off. Just
But I mean, like music wise though, like a lot of my, I think early music though, I was really inspired by like a lot of stuff my dad listened to. What's that?
Examples.
Rolling Stones is a big one, Pink Floyd, but he was also kind of like really tuned into like the newer 90s stuff at the time. So like Alanis Morissette, Massive Attack, Fiona Apple, that kind of stuff. Like I remember hearing Beck, I remember hearing all these like, what we call now classic rock, but then also hearing this new stuff like Massive Attack. And I'm like, this is crazy. It sounds so cool. And I remember listening to a Beck album that he had on CD, and I was like, what is this? Like, this is the strangest thing I've ever heard in my life. And
some people are asking about the same thing about CDs. Like, what is this?
What is a CD? What is this man talking about right now?
That's cool. And so like he started you off, and then you kind of ventured off on your own.
Yeah, that was definitely the big.
I forgot if Rain might have said it. I think on the last episode, his first thing that he bought. But what was the first time when you had your own money? I think we talked about this because I remember mine was
music that you went out and got like my choice. You see it on the shelf, you get it with your own money. Nobody else's decision.
I got Easy
Which
Does
will lead
It.
me to a second question.
I bought a bootleg of Easy Does It at the swap meet in St. Louis.
Yeah, I honestly think I had Spice World, the first Spice Girls album on cassette.
Let's go.
Yeah, but then I also had Kill 'Em All from Metallica, which was like the sheer opposite.
Wow.
This explains.
Yeah.
Dude, if I was writing a cartoon like about you, that would be exactly the truth. That pairing explains it so well.
Just walked in like, which one do I play?
We're gonna zoom in a little bit here, but Rishi is wearing a pin that's such an amazing piece of art, and it's is it Megadeth or whose logo?
I don't know what the logo is, but it's
this super heavy metal.
It's just like the left,
like
the metal,
a Megadeth-y kind of thing.
Yeah,
but it says Rihanna.
Yeah.
Who I know is one of your favorites.
Love her.
He's got the
next to the red photo thing there.
Black lipstick, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love her.
But yeah, this Then they rewind it to the 90s. Spice Girls and Metallica, did you say? Oh,
that first Spice Girls album is really... There's that song...
Let's go.
I'm drawing a blank.
It was the 90s, bro.
Yeah, it was the 90s.
Yeah.
It was a different time. But there's one song that I think it's called Say You'll Be There. And it's just like, still to this day, like one of the best songs ever written. and that's the thing, like, I'm such a music snob. But like, I'll still go back and like, you know, those tracks. Like, I mean, there's some bangers out there. Like, I'm not that like pretentious as people think.
Now, at the same time, when you were just listening to the stuff, were you starting to pick up a guitar or play piano, or did you have music lessons at all?
Yeah, you know, like I think maybe it might have been like around 12 that I got my first acoustic guitar, and around that time, my dad introduced me to Neil Young. Which was really cool because like Neil Young, amazing musician, not the most perfect voice, at least like traditionally. And I feel like listening to his music, it gave me a little bit hope of like, I could do like this a little bit. I'm not really the best singer, and but it made me feel like gravitated towards wanting to try this. And so, yeah, I mean, I still always feel that way. Like making music myself isn't something that I feel the most confident in. It's just like any creative thing. Like you're always going to have some kind of like setback of like, is this good? You know?
Sure.
Please keep doing it because there's tracks you shared with us here a couple of weeks ago, like the avocado.
Yeah.
What was the
like
freestyle?
Routine
The Don't Forget one?
Don't
forget. It's awesome. We got to put a link.
We might just outro this.
I'll have to upload it. Yeah, I'll send it to
We
you.
should.
Yeah, we'll have to.
We should. It's pretty strong because especially knowing Rishi, but like you made it in such a way that everybody can relate to it. And
Exactly. It's so real.
It's a lot like a microwave version of Today Was a Good Day.
Yeah.
But in a more of a don't forget to do this.
Yeah.
Kind of a good day.
That's hilarious.
Well,
Yeah.
because it made me think of that Tube song, and then I showed that to you, and I figured if it was you or Jen that were like, dude, everybody we show this to has got some other, like, yo, this reminds me of this.
Yeah.
It's a good song.
Yeah, like one of my
Definitely a
friends
good
sent me,
song.
he's like, this reminds me of Butthole Surfers. I'm like, really? Like, how? And he's like, I don't know, something about it. And
Excellent. Well, yeah, keep for like Eric said, please keep making this
yeah,
that
I've
is
actually
just,
recorded some more since.
that is a gem.
excellent.
It's a perfect length and perfect shenanigan ish.
Level, yeah.
So you went from there, and like now you're playing the guitar. Did you go to high school in Queens?
No, actually, so my parents separated for a little bit. It was a really weird time while I was living in Queens. And so it was like a good chunk of time they were not together. And I was a really shy kid, like really just awkward. And I'm guessing a lot of it probably had to do with that. And I will like kind of relate some things in here. During that time, my mom started taking some classes at a college in New York, some art classes like textile design. And during that time is when she would come home. I'd come back, you know, I'd be at home and she would come back and have to do like her homework. And that's when I started like painting with her. And that's kind of where that started.
That's
Not
dope.
to go on like a little tangent there, but
No, that's great. That's why we're talking.
yeah,
it's
but
awesome.
so anyways, fast forward a little bit. My parents got back together, and they were like, "Let's have a restart." So they sold their house and bought like a house out in Long Island, which was totally weird and new for me because I went from this like probably the most diverse area in New York to like this very like suburban town in New York on Long Island, and beautiful, absolutely gorgeous place. But for me, I'm like, I like skateboarding. I like punk rock, and you know, I'm like 13.
At
like
the time.
I'm a shithead, you know. Like I want to have fun. I want to like take the train into the city. Like you know,
right.
I was already starting to talk to girls, and I'm like, well, now I have to like ask for a ride to go see that. Like you know, it's just so far away, and it was just this whole new thing.
But you started painting with mom?
Yeah. So anyway, like I went to this one high school there, and I hated it, so I switched to like the local public school. And that was like my moment of like, I can reinvent myself. Like nobody knows who I am. That's
a fun headspace.
It was
to be
amazing.
in.
And I think that's when I really leaned into like, you know, my identity is tied into music and art. And that's really when I like felt like I kind of blossomed in that and started taking like photography and art classes. So
Nice. And
Yeah.
what art school did you go to, or what like secondary school did you go to?
Like
art
college?
School? Yeah.
I went to school of visual arts.
And what is that? Is that
It's
all?
in
This,
Manhattan. Yeah.
is that the name of it?
Yeah.
Manhattan School of Visual Arts?
Yeah, it's a great school, and they're very like, I would say less focused on theory, conceptual, and very much like just technical work, but also very eclectic. I mean, it was a really cool school. All
you
kinds
specialize
of
in something, or is it
I
really broad?
I
It's
started.
like visual arts.
I originally was like, I want to do fine arts, and I was like, well, I don't really know what I do with that, so I was like, I'll do photography. Like, I love photography. I spent all my time in the darkroom in high school.
Shout out to dark rooms.
Yeah, I love to. That's where everything goes down. But I was like. So I pursued photography. I was really into it, but I had my roommate in my first year of college, and he showed me this camera called a Bolex. It's like a spring-loaded, wind-up 16mm camera, and he was like showing it to me. It has the film with the sprockets rolling through, and it's like, no batteries, no energy.
How is it?
What's that?
Perfect, yeah.
Beautiful thing. Like, it's a work of art from the 40s or 50s, and I literally went to the office at school the next day and was like, I want to switch my major. I want to do film.
Nice.
Because I was like, it's basically photography, but it moves. And I started doing that, and I fell in love with documentary filmmaking. Like, that was really my calling. Not just because I didn't like working with actors or large productions, but I love natural moments that happen that you can't stage, and I just felt such a draw to that, like
a podcast.
Yeah, like a podcast. Anything could happen. but it was something that just was exhilarating, filming these different things, and I did some projects in school, and
real quick, I'm assuming that when you got into school you get accepted. Do you immediately hey, well, your parents were together then?
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Rishi's parents. Did you immediately know you get to live in a city, live in Manhattan?
Yeah, that was.
So you're just I'm peace.
Yeah,
there's always that moment when you're
I looked at some other schools, and I considered Savannah. I know there's a nice art school down there, but I was. And then I applied to a bunch of other places that were upstate New York. There's Purchase or some other places, and I was like, I want to be in the city. I was already really big in the skateboard scene. So I used to take the train in when I was 15, 16 years old into the city and skateboard all day on the weekends. And so I was already very much immersed in the New York City landscape and the lifestyle. And in terms of art, it's everything is there. Why would I go anywhere else when I'm in the mecca of everything,
it's the majority of people are trying to go there.
Yeah, and I'm here already. Good
call, man.
I just have
That's
to
awesome.
have my parents help me move some stuff in the trunk of the car, and that's it. Not a big thing,
So was it just an apartment with a roommate, or it's got to be expensive.
So the first year was a dorm room, but I guess that leads into a great thing. After that, I was all of us were this is not working. There's too many rules. We're 18. We're crazy.
Practically grown-ups.
Yeah. we're we are constantly going to be on the cusp of getting kicked out of this place. We need to get our own place. And we found a loft in Williamsburg right before the cusp of Williamsburg becoming Williamsburg.
Yeah.
And so we rented this old building that was a microphone factory. So it was a big, and a lot of it kind of reminded me of 1980. I think that's when I came here. I was so drawn to it because it was this building that had been renovated into something new and catering to basically all artists. Everyone that lived there was an artist, filmmaker, or something. So we were in this building with just these super talented people. Everyone we met was up to something cool. And we started doing art shows there, and we'd have people play music, and we started drawing up a crowd. We had a write up in one of the local magazines, newspapers and stuff. They were new little art scene popping up, and So
What'd you guys call it? Your house?
Fresh Grown Local. That was the name
okay.
of it. Yeah.
Nice. Good at naming stuff, bro.
Yeah.
Fresh Grown Local. Did you get to do that like throughout? I'm assuming it's like a 4-year run. You didn't have any hiccups or anything?
No, I mean, we all lived together for probably 2 years doing that. And then after that, like we all kind of spread out and did our own thing. So we were in that space for about 2 years. It went really well, but I think like just direction wise, like creatively, like I was really into documentaries and I still painted and did all that stuff, but it just wasn't really going to blossom naturally in the way that it could have, you know?
Yeah. It's that time when you're trying to make hay, learning your craft, you need to be around like more site specific, sports specific.
Yeah. I mean, I was like
colleagues and whatnot.
Pretty like career driven in terms of figuring out what I want to do and not like what we're all doing,
right.
You know, like
too early for that shit.
Yeah. So I was like, I kind of like decided to take my sidestep and, you know, I'm happy for it. I met a lot of really cool people after it too. And
did you graduate?
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. Congrats.
And specializing in film, that's what you finished out.
Yeah.
What does it say?
On the thing?
Yeah.
Film and video.
Is it like a
BFA?
A BFA.
Yeah.
Cool. Right on.
So, and you mentioned documentaries there. Was there something like subject-wise or thematically that you were drawn to? Was there a common thread, you might say?
Blair Witch.
Like in terms of like what I filmed at the time, or
yeah, like what you said you were drawn to documentaries. Was there
I was really
sort of theme or subject, or you pretty like all over the board?
I was really drawn. I loved the underdog stories. Like I was really big into like these people that were kind of like you would typically pass, you know,
stories of individuals.
Yeah, like profile pieces and of people that were you would, you know, walk past in Trader Joe's and you just didn't think anything of it, but then you realize like, wow, this person is like got this crazy life, you know, and
like soft white underbelly.
Yeah, and I was like really drawn to that kind of thing where I loved like talking, like sharing stories about these people that had these like weird interests or hidden talent or something, or you know, they were just like kind of out there. You know,
one of the things I've found in art school, I'm fortunate. I have some things that I made then, some things I'm glad I don't have, I guess. But you know, work like that has, you know, some works got ruined, it's got lost. I mean, you had portfolio upon portfolio of just student work.
Yeah.
The difference being in, I guess, in film and video is that it's pretty easy to kind of upload and keep with you and stack files and stuff. Do you have some of your early student work or something you were proud about then that you made, like, see, whatever, senior thesis or whatever it might be?
I have some old films like I may have online or on some like, you know, dusty hard drives.
Like on MySpace or something? Just kicking it, just on a loop on MySpace.
Yeah, you can stream it right now.
But, you know, it's funny, though, because there's like you were talking about like the different, like, you know, being an artist and having physical work. Obviously, you want to get things photographed. But like I didn't really think about this, like even going into it, because my mentality was like, I'm going to make a movie, me, like I'm going to make it. Mm-hmm. And then I learned that like it takes a crew to make it. But I was really driven. I'm like, I want to prove it, to like do it on my own.
How'd that go?
Sometimes really weird. I'm just standing there. I was like, what am I doing? Like, who are these people? Like, why am I here right now? You know? But
So what was the name? What was the title? Since you're pretty decent at titles, what was the title of your senior project or whatever? Something you remember?
Well, I did a thesis called "The Biblical Basement," and it was about my friend. It was about my friend.
Jesus.
He is a friend of mine that I'd known from Long Island, and you know, he hadn't, you know, we're kind of all graduating from college, and he had like not moved out, and he wasn't really working, and his mom was getting like a little frustrated with him, and since forever that she's lived in this house, she's built a diorama of Jerusalem, like literally like huge. And she would kick him out of his room in the basement to make it. So he would have to go stay in the office upstairs, and then she would do this thing and leave it up for like months. And then, so I basically went in and filmed her setting it up, him like being pissed off, and then the tension between the two of them. And then like him kind of coming to terms of like, this is actually really beautiful. Like, this is actually a really cool thing. But that was my first like film. I never released it.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Maybe I'll
man.
do a screening here.
That's a great story.
Yeah. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, our cinema nights have been picking up pace thanks to Jill. Appreciate it. So now you're graduated. You got your piece of paper from the school. You feel like you got your feet under you. How do you enter the professional world as a videographer or a filmmaker? Because that's one of those ones where like
basically like diving into the deepest part of the ocean with cinder blocks. Like in New York, I'm like back. Not that I was anybody, but now I'm definitely nobody.
Yeah.
Like I got a degree, but it doesn't mean anything. And I ended up having to move back home because I was like, there's no like anything to even get started in New York as an internship. So I was lucky enough to be able to live at my parents' house for a little bit and like commute to the city. And I worked for these companies and
because that's your end. You do the internship, you make some connections, you try to find your lane, and then what'd you do? What was your first come up?
I worked with a company that I was literally actually. You would love this. I think I told you about this before. There's this company that did stuff with like HBO documentaries, and I'd done a few documentaries where I was like basically like a PA or like doing like the most low level work. But one of the projects I worked on was transcribing interviews from Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. And it was basically a Frank Sinatra documentary. And that was one of the first things I worked on where I was like, this is cool. Like, you know, everything else was like, I worked on something about the Eagles. I'm like, well, I don't really love the Eagles.
Fucking hate the Eagles.
Yeah. Like, they're cool. Like, Joe Walsh is awesome. But, like, you know, but the rest of it was just like, you know, I wanted to be proud of something. And that was the first thing where I was like, my name's in the credits. How cool is that? Nice. But, like, I wasn't making a lot of money doing that. And I mean, I don't know if this is a good segue, but I did a lot of work with my dad's company doing art installation. Because he ran a company in New York, and
now is that all they did, or was it like a furniture plus art, or was it just straight
fine art, shipping and handling?
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, so my dad came from like absolutely nothing in England, and he probably has had every job on the planet, and he ended up working as a truck driver, and eventually worked as a truck driver for a art shipping and handling company, worked his way up to a management role. They transferred him to New York, and he started working there for like maybe, I don't even know if it was a year or not, and then they were like, we're giving you the boot. And he was like, I just picked up my whole life to come here. And he basically did that whole thing like, who's coming with me?
Oh, no.
And he started his own company. And then he paired up with a couple other guys, and so, I mean, to rewind a little bit, like, my whole life, I've always been exposed to art and cool art. You know, like I remember I was like so young, but like I remember like
because whack art sucks.
Yeah, but I remember like him pulling down a painting. I don't even know who it was, but my mom was just like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this is here! Like I'm seeing it in person." And I was like a little kid, but I remember those moments of like knowing the importance of the history of art, you know, like something means something here. Nice. I don't really know what. And as I got older, and anyway, fast forwarding back, towards to college, like I started working with his company, and at that point he was kind of on his way out, but the people he was working with were getting me involved, and so I started hanging art for like a lot of galleries in New York and museums. I'd pack art. It was rough work, like you know, moving crates and unloading them, hanging it for like a show, and then like 24 hours later, packing it all back up, bringing it back to the warehouse.
To expand on your thought there, because I'm very familiar with doing the same myself, not in New York, but not only is there always a timeline, it's like somebody's behind schedule for sure. You can't be early enough. You're always late, or they're late, or the walls aren't ready, or something. And in addition, the work you're moving is extremely valuable, and you're the one that's getting you're the one that's actually getting to touch it. So like a bunch of people in life go through in museums, a lot of people on the planet. You go through the museum, you see the work, you look at it, and then you go on with the rest of your life hundreds of times. You might have seen thousands of paintings and never really actually touch it. But to have to pick it up and move it from its crate or hang it on the wall or whatever is stressful. So I feel
it's stressful and also like really weird, you know, because you kind of put like art on a pedestal. You know, like you kind of put it up like this top tier.
White glove.
And then when you're seeing it, like kind of transported in a way, like not saying it's transported in a poor manner, but like you just see it in this realm that's so
basic.
Quick.
It's an inherently utilitarian context.
Yeah. Like, you know, like being in the back of this moving truck and like it just feels everything's so industrial and labor intensive, and then you're like inside it is this like thing that we've all like, oh, you know, like it's
precious.
But I don't know if I had this moment, and I think it for a good slump of time like ruined art for me, because I was hanging a painting in New York, and I went to the bathroom, and like growing up, like I always loved Salvador Dali. Like it's just so weird and out there, and as a child, like his pictures are so like paintings are so cool to look at. And one of my favorite paintings from him, I don't even know what it's called, but there's like a naked woman laying back, and there's like a bee, a pomegranate, a musket, like a tiger, and they're all kind of like launching out all together.
You look that up?
And I remember like going to the bathroom at this house that I was hanging a painting in, and that painting was in the bathroom.
Yes.
And I just remember looking at it, I was like, holy shit. Like that's real. Like I
think it was original?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, compared to other stuff that was up in their house, like I feel like it had to. Like it'd be insulting for them not. I don't know. But like after I saw that, I was like, I cannot believe that someone was like, you know, let's put that Dali in the bathroom.
Right.
And for the longest time, I was like, I'm out. I don't want to make art. Like I don't even see the value of this. Like I'm just gonna bow out of this. So.
Well, we had a talk, I won't revisit it at length here, but we did have a little discussion about bathroom art like 2 or 3 episodes ago. I think it might have been the Katya
That's the one,
episode
yeah,
where we were
that's
talking
the
about
one.
bathroom art.
So that
I think it's
I won't say who.
I think it's a place of great honor, actually, to place a piece of art for several reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I do see that.
But I understand what
Yeah.
you said at the same time.
well, I like your response too. It's like here, I have two of my pieces hanging currently in our public bathroom, and I wear that with a badge of pride, because you do have a captive audience, and people are
That
like,
is true. I mean, you're sitting there with like,
and I have sold art right off that wall,
Really?
multiple times.
Well,
Like,
that's my point. Is it's a captive audience, plus you're only visiting it yourself, so there's no pretension of how you react to it.
hey, you know,
anybody else.
you guys are completely changing my whole entire notion of everything right now on the air. We're just.
I talked
I
to
see it. Like maybe it's like, wow.
my one client. I won't say who it was who bought that piece. They we walked all around, and a lot of times people would do this because I have to wear multiple hats, and I'll be the host. And they were like, "Yeah, but we want to see your work." And I'm like, "All right, cool." And I showed him your work, and we're going on. And he goes, "Now that I know this your style," he goes, "My favorite one is the one in the bathroom." I was like, "Well, let's go take a look." So me, him, and his wife go in the bathroom, shut the door.
That's
we have a whole
amazing.
critique in the bathroom. It's fantastic. He's like, "I'll take it."
That's
Wrap
so
it up.
I love it.
The Salvador Dali is called "Dream Caused by a Bee Flight," large print, or that's, I don't know. This is a print, but anyway, that's the one. So now you guys listening can imagine Rishi as a working for his dad,
Or
art
like
mover,
20 or something.
going in
Yeah.
the going into the bathroom and seeing the OG Dali on the pisser wall. So that, you know, you're out on art for a limited amount of time. Hey, when did you get to the point where you're like, you know what, California sounds cool?
Well, so a lot of people like don't know this, but like there is a surf scene in New York, and like I grew up skateboarding, and I always loved the
It's on
ocean.
Long Island, right?
Yeah.
I've heard of
Well,
this.
and
It is
like
kind of
Rockaway.
underground.
Yeah. So it's not really a known thing, but there is a scene there. And like growing up around the ocean, like, cause there's a lot of water around New York, like I was always drawn to surfing, and there's that skateboarding segue. Excuse me. So I got into surfing when I was like a teenager. I was never good at it. I'd go with my buddy. I'd go like twice a year, and I would just like suck ass. And I was just terrible. And then I had this one moment where I was just like, I remember catching a wave, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I bought like a thicker wetsuit, and then I surfed like past summer, and I was like, oh, okay. And I did that for like a couple of years during that time of like doing this like, you know, work in the city with the film company and working with art installation. But I only had weekends to do it. And I mean, New York conditions, you go like once a month where it's actually okay. So I just realized like, you know what, like that's what makes me happy. Like I want to, and I'm really getting sick of the weather here. We had a polar vortex. It's like we're...
That was like 2013.
Arctic air gets sucked in, and I was like,
That's all you got to say.
I was like, I'm not, like, things froze over for like 2 months, and I'm like,
I'm out on
done.
polar vortexes.
So I drove out here, like, I had like a loose job lead, literally right down the road at Road Trip Nation, which is like probably like a stone's throw, like a mile away.
Shout out to Road Trip Nation. Tell us what they do. What'd you do there?
Yeah, so anyway, yeah, I drove out here, and I started working there almost pretty, like, immediately, and I started as a video editor, which is like, cool, this is up my alley of what I want to do. It was a documentary series. They produced content for PBS, and like, you know, editing wasn't my favorite thing at that time. I love it now, but back then I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm just doing this so I can get my foot in the door to film. And so I just like nagged them and said like, hey, like send me out on the road to film. And basically what they did, they had these like almost 40-foot RVs, and they would get these like young adults on there, drive across the country, interview kind of leaders in different realms.
And they're all like Kelly Green, I think.
Yeah, they're all
or
like
some kind
bright
of green.
Yeah.
Definitely not 1980.
Very noticeable. Yeah. No.
It's different.
But yeah.
So you talked them into it?
Yeah, and then I did that for like 5 years, and I saw like almost, I think, within this like continent, excluding Alaska and Hawaii, I think I've seen all but 4 states, and I think maybe during that amount of time I would go film 1 to 3 months a year for the course of 5 years. So I spent a lot of time like just traveling.
So I need you to explain. So when you're driving. All right, so they're driving an RV. It's kind of like a road rules, like an MTV road rules kind of thing.
You know, everyone asks for an explanation as to what they did there, and it's so hard to explain it. But
did you drive the bus?
I drove it.
And then you filmed the people?
Yeah,
it's like a family.
Drove it too. Yeah, so it's like 3 young adults. So basically, it's like an educational series for PBS. And so, say like we did one about women in STEM, so like science, technology, engineering, math, and so we had 3 young women traveling across the country, going to MIT, NASA, interviewing all these people that are like these women that are like in the top tier of like pushing the boundaries of just really cool stuff in that realm.
Shout out to women.
And so we go out, we drove across the country for a month, and we'd film different people along that time. And I loved it. Like for me, like just traveling, filming, that sense of freedom, being on a road trip, like really just became a part of like the ethos of who I was. Like I really just love that that feeling of like getting in a car and just going.
The road is open.
Yeah.
Cannonball Run style.
Yeah.
Let's
like,
go.
You know, I mean, I remember reading like On the Road when I was like 18 years old or something. And
Nice.
I was so inspired by it. Like I even took a Greyhound to California when I was 18 or 19 years old.
Ballsy.
Not doing it again. Like it was one of the worst decisions I've ever made in my life. But I was so inspired by the book where I was just like, I'm going to pack a backpack and take a bus across the country for like, you know, $80.
One of those, wouldn't repeat it, but glad you did it.
Yeah, like I'm glad I did it, but like it, you know, I was always fascinated by that. Like, you know, I really, because I'm the first American in my family, like I always felt drawn to this, like the American dream is like to the freedom of just open road, and I felt like that was like what like true Americana was for me.
And then once you got your taste of that, which I've got to do myself,
yeah, I mean, you've done
and
a
it's
ton of
definitely part of my my artistic ethos. It's imperative in a way. But then once you get a taste, you start like picking your trips better, and like you stopped working at that company. So then now when you travel, it's because you want to go where you want to go.
Yeah, it's a lot more intentional now. I mean, I have 2 cats, which I love very much. Shout out to Finn and Laszlo. So sometimes
Yeah.
Believing them is a little harder.
Yeah. So yeah, well, you're a cat dad, you're a husband, and before we tell how you got married to Jen, shout out to Jen, because both Eric and I were there. You guys were there too at the burn.
I was at my wedding.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Barely.
I have photographed
Barely. Yeah.
that you were there. Jen too.
We were all kind of there.
Right. We'll come back from the break, and we're gonna talk about that and talk about
how we got there is a good story,
and talk about some current some projects and some projects in the future. So we're gonna take a little break, and we'll come right back.
Cool.
And we're back. Thanks, guys, for your patience, even though that was only half a second after the edit. We're back. We before we dipped out, we're about to get into. We were talking about traveling and one common experience that all three of us at this table have with also our first guest of the podcast when we started, Lauren Kill was. That's Jill. She's offering us coffee. I'll take one.
Can't complain about that.
Yeah. So that's everybody. Don't forget the creamer.
Please forget the creamer.
Or just bring it with you. Thanks. So our first podcast guest on the Location 1980 Art Podcast was Lauren Kilb and her project, The Lens Perspective, or just The Lens. It's going to be her second installation at Burning Man. She was, and I didn't get to go to the first one. I think Eric did.
Not before I knew her. So
Yeah.
you were there. I was there.
Right.
Yeah,
You weren't
from a distance.
You weren't there to help with the lens, but I helped with the building and unloading and meeting her family, and I never got to go. In fact, I think Bryce got my spot because it was at the very end. But anyway, that was the first time. The second time, which we all participated in, she rallied a crew. We were all kind of tight. We had been essentially through COVID together, relying on our artist families to keep us kind of tightly woven. And she was going to do the lens again. And so it's cool. Multiple cool things were going to happen. The Burning Man was going to be some kind of crazy because it was the
first real one
after
2 years.
After the break, after the Renegades. And then also we knew that you and Jim were going to get married.
Well, we kind of all knew. Like, we didn't even know.
But you kind of did.
We, said...
I think I kind of felt like it.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. I remember... No, I remember, I don't know. I just feel like it was on the...
It was definitely...
It could have happened, and then once we knew it was going to happen, everybody's like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, man.
Because there was several things that had to happen.
Yeah.
And so we had to go there. So we're going to build the project, and you guys were on the build team. So that was
we were actually in Portland. Remember, we were living in Portland.
Oh, so you can't.
So we had to go a different route and met you there after. It was
right, but you did come to Did you help on the strike or the build?
No, I don't think we made it because we.
Did you help strike when you left?
I don't think so. We had a pretty crazy tight week.
Okay, so you guys just got to come and get married and leave. It's great, sweet burn, dude.
But we did. I mean, so just to backtrack, we did.
But you did camp with us.
We did go the first time though with.
Oh, okay.
Lauren. Yeah, so we were there
sweet.
Lauren's first year of doing the lens, which
Nice.
was a really fun experience, and it was my first time going to Burning Man.
Well, with that said, then that makes up for it. So, but you guys did camp with us, and I remember it was. I love at Burning Man. It happens too at other campgrounds and stuff, but when you're just camping and whatever, the river or whatever. But when the car pulls up with the new people and everybody's like, "Oh, Jennifer's here!" It was just so fun. Especially at the burn because it could be extreme. You might be, and that year it was probably 105.
It was crazy.
And you guys got there. You guys got there after we had already probably built the lens or something. Okay, because we were there a whole week early. Yeah. So you guys show up, and so when did you know? I mean, you had to know a little bit because you already had the ring and the.
Well, actually, we didn't have new rings. We had previous rings that we already owned.
But you had the outfits and.
We had the outfits. So So funny enough, we were.
You're thinking about getting married.
We were, yeah. I mean, we had been, we got engaged during COVID, and the idea of arranging a wedding was just what are we gonna do, and how are we gonna do it, and we're in Portland now at that time, and so how are we gonna get people together or whatever, and Lauren always said that, you know, like, we have extra passes available if you want to go to Burning Man. And I even got a call from Corey Friday enough, and he was just like, dude, come on, like, you gotta go. Which is so ironic because
he didn't go.
He didn't go.
Shout out to Corky for selling you on it.
But we, like, I think like a month before, you know, the gates opened, we said, yeah, you know what, we'll do it. And Jen and I were both like, should we like pull the trigger and do the wedding there? I mean,
start exploring that idea.
Yeah, and I'll do a really quick backtrack, like a abridged version of this. The reason why it would have been like it was important for us to get married at Burning Man with this crowd is because this is the community that like we forged our relationship within. You know, we had met each other once prior, but I both rented studios here. Was
it safe to say you guys basically fell in love here at Location
Definitely,
1980?
Absolutely. I mean, and I remember you did like a artist, like, you know, we had some new artists come in and we sat in a circle and introduced ourselves. And the second she walked in, we're both just like, I know you. And we kind of like started chatting and hanging out and yeah, like we kind of built a relationship here. So for us, like we saw that doing this at Burning Man with amongst those friends that we all like that saw this progression, we're like, how cool would that be? You know,
good
like,
timing.
Yeah, it was good timing. So yeah, we each bought like outfits and some like random stuff, and we drove up to Burning Man. We stopped in, I think, Reno to get our marriage license. So we had to go. It was like really funny, like having all this crazy stuff like packed in our car for Burning Man, and like going up to this like very formal building and like saying, "Yeah, we like to apply for marriage license. Like, where are you going to get married? Black Rock City." Who, you know, and we had emailed like a bunch of potential officiants because, you know, in order to do it officially, like you need to have someone sign the papers there.
Which is available in Black Rock City.
Yeah, it's available, and we were kind of running short, and we had some people offer, but it just wasn't working out, whatever. And I reached out to like the Burning Man database, like through email, and they said, here's a list. And we found this one woman. I wish I could remember her name. I think her name was like Darla or something like that. Like,
was that a playa name?
I don't know.
Because that'd be pretty fire.
But yeah,
what are you going to do to earn that name?
We like, you know, conversed through email, and she was like, okay, just find me when you're here. And I was like,
good luck.
What?
Oh. Just find me one.
Yeah, she was like, go to the Burning Man database. You know, they have that like at base camp. They have the computers you can go on. It's like their own little like database of like finding people's addresses and everything.
That's pretty sweet.
There's these dusty old computers, and you go on them. And I found her, and we went and rode our bike to her and said, hey, we want to do the wedding this day, this time. And she's like, okay, I'll block it off, like da 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 da. And we're like, okay. And the whole time, Jen and I are like this might not happen, you know, like everything has to fall in place for it to work. And let's just err on the side of caution and like, you know, allow ourselves to not be disappointed if it doesn't work. We talked to my friend Derby, who was in a camp that had an art car.
Not just any art car.
Yeah, a cavallo. And so here's a funny backstory behind a cavallo. When I was living in that art space, when I was 19 years old or 18, 19 in Williamsburg.
It was called...
Well, our show thing was like Fresh Grown Local, but like he reached out to me. I went to college with Derby. He reached out to me and said, hey, can we throw a fundraiser party for my Burning Man friends at your apartment? And I was like, yeah, sure. Funny enough, it was the fundraiser for that art car that Jen and I got married on.
Yeah,
so awesome. I was like, the kind of like
circle.
The full circle of this. More than that, yeah. And like that was just like wild. And so, you know, I talked to him and he was like, yeah, like I think we could line this up. And I was like, I need like a yes, you know, like let's make this happen. And so even until the night before, I was like, we're going to meet you here around sunset, da da da. Can we make it happen? He's like, yeah, I think we can make it happen. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, because there's now at this point, there's at least, I'd say 8 to 10 of us that are going to be attending this wedding.
I think we had like probably 15 or something. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and then day of,
and Camino was writing a speech. So
yeah.
Like,
so
there's a lot.
Yeah, like we found out the officiant. She was like, I don't say anything. I just say like the official part.
Thanks, Joe.
So we're like, what? Is this gonna be like a 30-second wedding? Like, who's gonna? What? Like, what do you mean? And then
Say
Jen and I were talking about it, and we're like,
marriage.
Well,
Marriage.
done. But for us, like we'd always known that like Camino is such an eloquent like man. He loves writing. He's just really great with his words. So we were like, you know what? He would be perfect for this, and I would be honored because he was also
he loves the burn.
And he was also there.
He's got such a good energy to do that.
Yeah, and like he's got a lot of charisma, great at public speaking, and
he's damn handsome.
Yeah, damn handsome, and he showed up in fishnets that day, which is amazing. Anyway, so yeah, he agreed to do that. So we all of us got all dolled up, and I wore an Indian kurta, and Jen had this gorgeous outfit on, and we all rode our bikes over. Camino was very nice enough to have her hitch on the back and sit on the back of his bike. Yeah,
he had an electric bike.
I don't even think his. I don't know. I just remember everyone was sweaty.
So this also was a year that it was like 105,
110, 105.
But I think that particular day was not the worst.
Yeah,
which was kind of nice because things started lining up. And if you don't mind, I can take my perspective. Leading up to the same point, because we didn't know if it was going to happen, and the lens was already built, so that obligation, it wasn't time to strike yet. It was like kind of a nice quiet moment in the burn where this was our absolute priority. Everybody's super stoked, and we all put on our playa best, I guess you would say.
Oh yeah.
And which is some cool stuff, for sure. Very colorful audience for your wedding.
I mean, you had like a pink tuxedo on or something like that?
Yeah, it's all aggressive.
I had my finest kilt on, for sure.
I mean, I was just amazed to see how
no
everyone,
shirt, I believe.
like, then and there, everyone just showed up and were like, what can we do? And it was just, really seeing the community, especially that like kind of Burning Man ethos of like, all hands on deck, and it was amazing.
Well, we got to the point where we're like, all right, it is happening, because we could see your back and forthness, and this is
like 15 minutes before we set sail. There was still kind of like, is this going to work?
Well, here's the thing. Wait, time out.
It was the clown parade.
What I'm trying to say is, even before that, we haven't even left camp yet. We're like, is this going to happen? Like, we're really going to go.
We still didn't even know where we're going to go on playa.
We're really going to get on our car, and if we do, and the sunset, blah, blah, we're meeting at this bar that's right by our car. And then I'm thinking, like, in my head, as I'm writing, we're probably going to do this, like, just walk out. Like, because sometimes too the car's not ready, or somebody else took it. Or it doesn't start.
It's broken, whatever.
Yeah, and we get to this bar, and everybody shows up, and like
the fishing was late. That was pretty.
Yeah, we're waiting for Jen. The lady was gonna marry you, so we're all like knocking down drinks. And I forgot the name of that bar, but it wasn't
Sunset Lounge.
Is that it?
I think so.
Yeah,
perhaps.
Yeah.
Sunset Lounge,
spot.
and come to find out that we did, and so our car, we're looking at it, and it's like ends up being super cool. It basically looks like a pirate ship with
like
carousel horses in four corners at least.
Like heavy metal polygon horses.
Yeah, some fire.
And the horses do go up and down as the pirate ship drives, and so. At the bar, I guess you got the green light or whatever. Derby must have said.
I mean, we were almost at the green. I went up and I was like,
"We were on it."
No, we were all on it, and they were like,
"Some chick
who are you guys?"
Yeah,
and I was
we went on it like we owned it.
And we're like, we're about to go get married on this for sunset.
Like for the next half hour, we do.
Yeah. And then
it's like
I went up to this woman that was there, and I'm like, "Hey, like," she's like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "We're taking out for a wedding." And I'm talking with her, and she's like, "Who's allowing this?" And she's like, I said Derby, and she's like, "Oh no."
Yeah, it was not good.
And I was like, "What's going on?" She's like, "We have the clown parade in an hour, and we can't be late." And I'm like, well, "What? What are the kind of words I'm hearing like prior to a wedding? Like the last thing you want to hear is like a clown parade.
It's overriding your wedding.
Well, it's stated with the gravitas of like, this is an immovable.
Yeah. The clown parade's happening.
But
so
the most amazing sight, like, it's almost like the sun just beamed down on this man, coming out with this velvet, like, yellow blazer with heart glasses and, like, a gondolier hat. And Derby just comes out here with these things on, just like, let's go.
Fires it up.
Yeah. He's like... I'm like, what? I thought you just turned a key. Like, what is this thing?
It was a contraption.
Yeah.
But it had, there was probably, let's say, 16 people on it. and we might have, a few of us may or may not have been in an altered state of mind. I can neither confirm nor deny that, but I was pretty fucked up. But
there is photographic proof of that. I remember there's one picture of you just like.
it was so fun.
So good.
But it was also like very emotional to save time because of the clown parade. I didn't know the specific reason. I knew that we had a limited amount of time, and also I wasn't the only one that was in a altered state of mind. It was super fun. So we find out not only does this thing start, but we have permission and we have about a half hour or whatever. In order to save time, we didn't drive all the way to Playa. We just went out, like, I guess this back Playa.
Went to the outer
reverse Playa.
With like the backdrop of the mountains.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was great. We drove and he stops and the sun's setting and we're all in there and we don't know what to do. And now at this point, so many things had to have happened in order to pull this off, and now it's happening.
Yeah.
And you and what's her name? Not Jen. I know Jen's name. Yeah.
You mean the officiant?
The officiant. You guys all walk the plank and get off the thing, and you're over there just like 40 feet from the boat. Or no, we all have to get off.
You all
we got to get off. You guys,
I think we're all on top of it.
You made us walk the plank. And then it was just, we were looking up at you guys.
I think that was like near the end. I think while we did the whole thing.
No, because then you made the call. You're like, this is weird.
That's right.
And you called us all, because we walked the plank and we're all off the...
Almost like an audience.
Yeah. And
we're like looking up. We're like looking up at the ship and you're like, this doesn't feel right. So you called us all back up there. And then Camino just ended up... Eric, could you describe Camino's speech there?
Ladies and gentlemen.
He came off the top rope.
You all know me. Some of you better than others. Now, I'm a divorce lawyer, so I know a thing or two about love and how it's done.
He talked about what love isn't. Which is
great.
Yeah.
I mean, the intro and the way he got into the thing.
No, I'm so bummed Jen isn't here right now to like
truly
reflect on this.
Though. I mean, he absolutely nailed it. That thing was, you couldn't have picked any better.
Yeah.
I mean, he snapped us right into like, pay attention. This is the actual wedding now. Our friends that we care about and love are getting hitched in this immaculate, the sunset behind the mountains. I mean, we do have all the photos and video of this.
Numerous,
that are just gorgeous. I've never been married. I might not ever get married, but I can imagine that for all the things that had to happen and the people that were there, where it was at, because people get married a lot at Burning Man. Then it just synced up. I mean, so how was that when he got done with his speech and then she finally says, "You're fucking married"?
I mean, I remember that was all kind of surreal. Like, obviously there's a lot of emotions going on. It wasn't until we were like driving back into the camp area, and Jen and I were on the front on the carousel going up and down. I think we like cracked open. I think you gave over like a bottle of tequila that Tori had sent over for us. So we cracked it open and we're drinking it and we're just like, holy shit, we did it. Like, that was the moment where like,
that's great.
Like, can you think of anything that went wrong? Like, that was, everything just lined up perfectly, you know?
Yeah. Well, you guys look absolutely gorgeous too. I mean, it looked like, you were some kind of prince and she was like straight, like Playa Leia. And then the cast of characters in the actual wedding group photo was just super. It's so fun. So that was
one of the best days of my life. That was definitely one for the books.
Honestly, I could say the same because I haven't been in. I mean, I've been in a lot of weddings and I've been in a lot of like important moments in life, but that was something where with Lauren's project and with the extended family at 1980 being there for that. I mean, it's just really, really cool. It was really fun.
For your edification, multiple times since then, every now and again, he'll bring this up, just that to reinforce to you like how meaningful for all of us.
Yeah.
That day, and like how satisfying and full. That was on not only that day, but on the experience of the burn at large.
Being like in a real life poem.
Yeah, I mean, Jen and I were at Lauren's wedding the year before. And so for us, that was like, we were part of something so beautiful and like, to know that we could share this kind of same experience differently, but still like have that sense of like, feelings and emotions tied around it and like memories, like it's a very unique experience. So being able to do it there is like, it hits different. Like no one's going to play, what's the song that everyone plays at the wedding?
Michael Jackson?
you make me want to shout, yeah. And everyone's, like, that's great. I love it. But it was definitely not one of those weddings. Yeah. A little bit quiet.
Yeah.
Like that's such
yeah,
a
we
typical,
we didn't do that.
No, but like, it's like just and to be perfectly honest, like we still do want to do like a wedding celebration one day.
Cool.
Maybe on the day or
let's
maybe
go
back at Burning Man. Who knows?
So that was a few years ago, and then you guys decided, just like you moved to Portland, now you're going to get a job in Oceanside. So fast forward to like modern times. I guess, have you been down there a year?
Where?
In Oceanside? Or more than
about a year and a half now. Okay. Yeah.
So what made you guys? So wedding's done. You're married now. You're back in Portland. How do you wind up in Oceanside?
I think we both just, to a degree, missed California, and especially the weather. Portland, beautiful city, but it was pretty hard. Like you have like 200 days of rain.
I'm out.
Yeah, and we both kind of, for me, like I grew up in New York, so at least I kind of knew the weather changes, but like not like that. Like like the cloud cover, and at least in New York it's like cold, but the sun's out. And we also missed our community and friends, and I got a job offer at Stone Brewery, and they're also like owned by Sapporo, so I do like a lot of work with them. And for me, I was like, I love the beer industry. And
so what's the job and the lot of work? What specifically do you do? Are you allowed to say? Or is it okay?
I mean, I work on the marketing team for Stone Brewing and Sapporo, so I'm a multimedia producer, so I do all the photos and video content for them, which is amazing because we have two different companies that are very different. One like kind of elevated Japanese, historical beer that's been around for like
centuries.
Yeah, like more than 100 years.
Which is bomb.
And then we have Stone Brewing, which is still also like a very old. It's been around since like '96 or something, but a different vibe. They're very more like just kind of go with the like craft beer scene, and this one's like this like Japanese, kind of. There's a lot of storytelling with it. But it gives me a lot of opportunity to like make beer look pretty, but also do like documentaries. Like we've been doing some documentaries and stuff, and we collaborating with artists. I've been filming them and telling stories, which is like amazing for me. Like that was truly, like I said, going back to when I was in college, like I wanted to tell stories about people doing cool, weird shit, and like being able to do that now. Yeah. and like getting paid for it through like a company that I like, like it's a pretty cool thing. It's really weird to see things come full circle like that. Like,
well, I see the crossover with the way you were talking about music earlier, and obviously still actively participate in that mode of curatorial expression, through this show, and through the radio and everything. But then bringing that with the beer, it's similar to like what like Anthony Bourdain and those guys explore of culture being brought together in different ways through food, and through drinks.
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool to see that. I thought the beer industry was just beer, but there's art, music, all these other things. I mean, it's a social, lubricant. So, we did the art show here, and we had kegs of Stone and Sapporo.
Shout out to Stone and Sapporo.
And like that was pretty cool to be able to like have people excited about beer. And
it was also cool that they drink all of it.
Yeah, all of it on tap.
There's nothing worse than leaving a party. You gotta carry like who are these losers that can't finish a beer? And ironically enough,
I never saw that happen, but okay.
Yeah, ironically enough, I wasn't drinking that day, so I didn't get to have any of that. So next time,
yeah.
We'll celebrate the close of Sober October.
There you go.
Yeah. So, Rishi, talk to us about like, regardless if it's at your job, your profession, or just your side projects and fun art stuff. What like going into next year, it's 2025. What do you look forward to doing? Like one big project or something like this, the Art of Wax that you kind of thought of and we did. Now there might be something else.
Doing this kind of definitely opened up some doors of like intertwining the art and music community for me. I realize there's a lot more connections than I thought, and I really want to like try and tie in a lot of that and be like kind of the liaison and correspondent to like make that happen. I didn't think I was capable of it. I did not think I could do anything like this.
I was gonna say I think you're a good medium because usually at one of these shows, and I can speak for the shows that we've had here, usually one will have to kind of overtake the other. And it was kind of you that were holding the reins to make sure that the visual art that was inspired by music and then the music while it was getting played during the visual art show all kind of, there wasn't one more important than the other. It was a true melding, and you did pull it off. So that's cool that you kind of want to go forward with that.
Yeah,
I think you're the guy.
I guess I didn't really talk about it too much, but I do draw and paint. I draw more than painting. I do it like a lot. But I'm more. I learned that, like, especially after having a studio, I really came to a conclusion that, like, I'm a sketchbook artist, or like I'm a, more ideas, less pieces. But those ideas turn into things. But I think that kind of leads up to like something I want to do next is like I want to really try and start something more of like I don't know if to say collective or agency or something, but I want to really tie in my experience with music, art, video, photos, and kind of bring it all together and build a network too. And like, all these artists that we meet and musicians, and make this like one-stop shop for everyone to just like have this beautiful blossom of creativity.
It's kind of like 1980.
Yeah, but like a company, not a place. You know what I mean? Like, something that we can like use to find clients or people that want some creative direction. It's like, hey, what do you need? I need a logo. Cool. Like, well, I actually want to like have a song that goes with a video with that logo. Cool, we have that.
Like it's like a little more personal thumbtack. like for stuff like that. Because I love saying that when people ask me, oh, you're an artist, and they're like, what do you do, blah, blah, and I would always tell them along the lines of what you just said, is that if I can't do it artistically, and I'm not even claiming I can do all art, but I will claim that I know an artist who does it well.
Exactly, yeah.
And I'll be like, it'll be 2 phone calls or a text, and you're hooked up with the right creative.
Yeah.
And that's just like me and my Rolodex of
there's so many people
bumped into.
Network
but
here.
if you got to put some structure to that, I think that it would be beneficial for all the creatives involved, and then the people who want to, because what the difference is, if you're using an app or whatever, you can get reviews and stuff like that, but in our case, you're talking about pre-vetted referrals. Like I know I've worked with this person on this project, and they're really good at that thing. I've seen it, and then that's when you can like start people on second base with our projects.
Not just how they are creatively, but how they deliver.
Yeah. Finish the damn project.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but we do have a tradition here called fucking Finish It Fridays. And it was all about that.
Finish It Fridays, I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
it had the fucking in it because it was important that you finished it, so that was like a demand.
Yeah.
It was like any size endeavor, but it had to be like airtight done.
I'm pretty sure, I don't know, 1 or 2 of those pieces that were up on the show here were still drying when it was on the wall. It happens, but
well, I'll have you beat that one, the other, not the avocado, the disco and rock and roll one.
Oh, yeah.
I was like finishing at about 6:05 p.m. The show had technically been open for an hour and 5 minutes.
That was tight. That was a tight deadline-ish.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I look forward to that, and I bet when you pull it off, it's going to have a cool name.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. Like, I think for me, it's like...
We're kind of already doing it.
I've never become like a master at one thing. I'm like an ultimate dabbler. But what that does benefit me is that I know how to communicate with a little bit of each avenue.
Shout out to dabblers around the world.
Yeah.
Well, cool, Rishi. Thanks so much for being on the pod today. This was your first podcast, let alone art podcast, which is totally different. We're stoked. A very colorful guest, and all these stories are super fun. We're coming to the end of the episode, but we do like to do a little bit of a rapid fire. You're going to answer either in or out, or A or B.
Okay.
So we'll just ask you a few different questions. I think you had one before we started.
Ooh, what other one did I have? Well, earlier we were talking about, but you already answered. I don't want to do that one again. But I'll start off. How about Spice Girls Metallica?
You know what? Just given on the trajectory of things, Spice Girls.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I like
Metallica, they blew Napster out, and they're just weird.
So Napster or LimeWire?
Napster.
What about polar vortexes?
Out.
Nice.
Physically, literally out.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Hurricanes now.
Yeah.
Anybody on video has the answer to this one already, but for those of us listening in the car who still have not turned on their sets, New York Mets.
In. And still in. We're going to the next round of postseason finals. So
The NLDS.
Yeah, we're doing it. Last time, actually, funny story, last time that happened was when I first moved out here in 2015. So I literally drove out to California, and then the Mets got to the World Series, and I was like, why did this happen
Who was on that team? Who's pitching? I can't. Was that the dude with the long hair?
Oh, yeah, DeGrom.
Yeah, DeGrom.
Yeah.
Shout out to DeGrom's hair.
Yeah.
Fire. That was a weird kind of look, but he pulled it.
Yeah, pulled it off. Now everyone's doing it.
He kind of looked like the homie from Dazed and Confused, Mitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he must have stole Mitch's style.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a look, yeah.
Except for Mitch was like 13 and DeGrom's like 6'5" or whatever.
That's funny.
What? So let's see, VHS or CD, or I should say VHS or
Laserdisc.
Yeah, laser
or
disc.
DVD.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
DVD.
DVD. I'll go VHS.
Okay.
I love the when you rewind it and everything's kind of warbly and not working. It's perfect.
It's good stuff.
I love it.
It's good stuff.
It's so warm.
I remember when you rented something and it might have snapped. You had to scramble.
Yeah.
We gotta try to fix this.
Put a little nail polish remover on there and melt the two halves back together before the blockbuster notices.
Yeah, I miss those old things you had to open with pop them open, and the plastic containers of the VHS and But what I do love about DVDs, what VHS doesn't have, is that opening intro that's would you steal a car? Would you steal But then you wouldn't steal a movie or whatever. I just thought that's the funniest thing. Every time I see it, which is rare, but it's amazing.
Tampering with mailboxes is a felony, all things.
I remember the thing that they have a couple of previews. Sometimes it's coming soon to DVD and video. And that shit was mixed 10 times louder than anything else.
Yeah, it
on
was
the
so
entire
loud.
disc.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had cinema night here at Location 1980, and we do a poll on our Discord,
We'll do themes, but then we'll put up 10 movies.
So it was sci-fi.
Vote for your top 2. So this was sci-fi.
And we ended up doing Fifth Element. The second. We sometimes
classic.
if there's two, one will be funny and one will be darker, if you can.
Yeah.
So we did Fifth Element, and then we did the OG Blade Runner, the final cut.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
And it was dope.
Blade Runner.
It was dope.
I hadn't seen that movie in so long. I
had been a
must have
minute.
not seen it since I was a teenager, and I watched it again with Jen. I was just this is the perfect movie.
It's pretty.
This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
We did it on this.
Great.
We
That's
did it
amazing.
as big as we could get
Oh
it
my
here.
gosh.
So it was 10
The
by 15.
soundtrack, everything is just perfect.
It did. So I didn't realize. I was trying to give it a second review after the show. Usually nowadays when I watch a movie, I'll go to YouTube and critical review of this movie, because somebody already thought about it and did a slick, polished version of some jokes or whatever. But they analyzed it really well. But the thing that was driving me crazy was, but as far as I really had to give them props as far as the textures, which was always wet and raining, or you could hear the
neon,
rain
and
neon, and then also there was the wet fur was just fucking making my skin crawl. I'll take
But
that
it's
off.
funny you talk about audio, because I'm sure you've seen Alien.
Yeah,
That whole movie is just driven by audio.
Yeah.
It's just
Oh, dude, when they're starting the computers
everything.
up on the ship?
Yeah.
So, Alien or Aliens?
Alien.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Totally.
All right.
Ridley
Okay.
Scott all the way. Yeah. I love Aliens too, but I'd rather take suspense over action.
Okay.
True. I think I would probably say Alien's my favorite horror movie, or scary movie. It's one of my favorite movies ever.
Right on.
Big xenomorph nerd.
So we didn't talk too much about tech. Tell us before we go. Now that you passed successfully our lightning round with flying colors, we didn't get to talk about tech. We like to get in with some of our artists, depending on what your medium is or your specialty. Corey told us all about glass, and I was like, "Don't dumb it down.
Yeah.
Check out. Give us the stuff that people don't know what you're talking about." So what if you're gonna buy? If somebody said, I checked your Amazon wish list and I'm actually going to buy you X, what would you get right now? Why? What are the features on it, and what does it do?
I'd probably get a Sony FX6. It's just a beautiful but compact camera. It's perfect for commercial work, documentary work. It's got everything in it, low light features, amazing stuff. It's beautiful. It's just a beautiful camera.
It zooms or it's fixed?
You can get a servo zoom lens for it, but you know, I mean, that's all depending on the lens. It's not a fixed. Yeah, it's got.
Oh, so you're just this is just a body.
This is just the body. Like the body. It's what a body. So I'd probably do one of those. That's a camera. Yeah,
okay.
That is a camera. No lens, not even a lens in it. But I will say though, like on a visual art note, like drawing, painting, I'd probably buy like 1,000 Kuretake brush pens. I might even have one.
Is that like a Tori Hanzo?
I just like changed. When I discovered this pen, it changed my style of art forever. And after I did that, it's a Japanese calligraphy. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's a Japanese calligraphy pen. And then
sweet.
Ever since I did that, I started buying more and more of these Japanese pens. And for me, it like totally just blew my world away of like what drawing can be, and you know, the control of lines and thickness and everything. So
you allowed to take this on an airplane?
I don't know. It could explode because it's like got a
Sweet.
Yeah, on a I'd probably just buy an endless supply of these.
Nice. A real medium, yeah. Know how to make them. Sweet.
Yeah. But I mean, I could nerd out by like camera shit forever. So
no, that's great. Well, thanks for sharing it with us, and we look forward to having you back on. We want to wish you well in your all your endeavors creatively. Those
and romantically.
Thank you.
Yeah, and being a cat dad, and definitely listen to Rishi's song. What's it called? To do or
don't forget.
Don't forget. Don't forget, it's awesome.
I kind of have like a pseudo name right now for the band name. It's called Zen Gargle.
I love it.
It might change. I don't know.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's got a ring to it.
It's like gargling with the Japanese whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, for our special guest, Rishi, and my co-host, Eric, I'm Jesse Fortune. This is the Location 1980 Art Podcast. Shout out to Jill, too, for helping us out today. And thank all you guys for watching or listening on all your podcast formats, platforms.
Whatever your device is.
They're out there. They're listening. They're subscribing. They're probably liking.
Hopefully that little TV screen in the back seat of the cab that you can't turn off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If we could just get this to force play on that.
We could. Yeah. So
and the cab drive doesn't end until it finishes. Like, where are we going?
Perfect.
I don't know. Just wait till it's done.
Long Island.
Long Island. We're going to Long Island.
Cool. Well, thank all you guys for watching and supporting the arts. Support your local arts. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.